It's the little community that took on a mining giant and won. But now the people of Bulga are back where they started, with the Mount Thorley-Warkworth open cut expansion again recommended for approval.
And our experts had in effect demolished the case put forward by the government and Rio Tinto. To us, how could this have happened?
Just last year, the Supreme Court rejected an appeal by the state government and Rio Tinto after the expansion's approval was overturned in the Land and Environment Court. But changes to planning regulations mean it's again on the table.
We will be pursuing this to the end because this is wrong.
In making its recommendation, the Planning Assessment Commission acknowledged the adverse effects the mine would have on the Bulga community, but it reasoned the employment and economic benefits outweigh negative impacts. The PAC made 3 recommendations in relation to Bulga, by far the most controversial: to uproot the small village and relocate it at the expense of the mine's owner. It also suggested investigations be done to minimise the final void created by the extraction of up to 28 million tonnes of coal a year. Rio Tinto says it's considering the findings, in particular those relating to Bulga. The union says it's a positive step after 5 mines closed last year.
You look at the unemployment rate for the Hunter region, in just 18 months it's gone from 5.8% to now 9%.
Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
It's a typical morning for a Sawyers Gully greyhound trainer. Warwick Brown has been working dogs since 1967 and he's heard plenty of stories of live baiting, but reporting to authorities hasn't been as forthcoming.
It's just un-Australian, as I said before, to sort of dob people and we just don't do it. So I guess a blind eye has been taken, and of that I suppose we're a bit guilty.
In Abernathy, it's a similar story. Bob Whitelaw is the president of the New South Wales Registered Greyhound Participants Association, and only 3 months ago was approached by people looking to use his private track to break in dogs on live bait.
I just tell them, look, go somewhere else, mate, because it doesn't happen here.
But if you know that these people have done it, why haven't you dobbed them in?
Well, mate, that's not my nature in that respect. It's you're probably right. Why haven't I done it? But that's not my nature, and it's not up to me. It's up to the authorities, mate.
The jury is still out on just whether the illegal procedure gives dogs the edge.
It's a practice that's been around for, over 100 years. So, people think that they can get that extra out of a dog by doing that.
And I've never done it again. I mean, I hate the sort of anybody giving a possum or something, but they used to reckon that was worth a half a second.
This Sunday, a meeting will be held in Cessnock to discuss how the industry can move forward.
Get some new people in there, get some people who want to clean it up, sort it out.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
Relief for a community which has spent the last 7 years fighting to protect its most valuable assets.
A sense of gratification that we've been able to bring a result to this community.
It's hoped the $1.5 million 3-phase project will improve the health of the Marl River and surrounding waterways.
The river will be dredged, which will return the river to its natural pristine oceanic condition.
Paterson MP Bob Baldwin says a deeper channel will help protect migratory bird breeding grounds.
This $750,000 today will go towards dredging, but importantly we'll make sure that Corey Island is rehabilitated, is restored, and those endangered species that live on there will no longer have the feral animals coming in and destroying their sites.
Piping will be installed to replenish Jimmy's Beach, which has previously been decimated by erosion. The renourishment program will see about 20,000 cubic metres of sand pumped onto the beach each year, but it's still unclear as to whether it will provide a long-term solution to the problem.
It's a wait and see, an ongoing project.
Lauren Kelly, NBN News.
Newcastle Show 2015 and the hunt for the perfect show bag was on.
I got the gummy train, I got the Kit Kat, and I also got the Nerds.
What seems to be the most popular this year?
Oh, the Birdie Beetle, of course. Been around for 51 years, it's still popular.
Next stop, the rides, and there's plenty to keep little ones entertained, while thrill seekers won't be disappointed. Extreme speed takes those who dare 60 metres into the air before spinning them back to Earth.
How was it?
It was so good.
Fantastic, exciting. You can see everything.
Yeah, it was the best.
But if rides and adrenaline aren't your thing, there's always the very cute and cuddly. Or the amazing world of Lego, from cities complete with trains to the Pasha Bolka, even a replica of the NBN News set, including a very carefully created microbit.
Yeah, I thought that would give everyone a bit of a nostalgic feel, and again, they're a big part of our community.
There's a little more flavour to this year's show with the introduction of the Food and Wine Expo. It's attracted over 150 exhibitors. The show continues until late Sunday. Emma Murphy, NBN News.
Of concern, we conducted an operation in the Upper Hunter, and out of 290 tests we found 57 positives in just one day.
I've been looking to impress a little bit, so mate, I'm just happy I'm there in the 17 and come run out first round against the Warriors. They're big boys, they're going to come straight through the middle, and that's what I'm expecting, and yeah mate, we're going to give it to them straight at the guts as well.
The year was 1988 and a new club had arrived on the scene. That moment has created fond memories for many players who've donned the red and blue.
Running out through that tunnel and looking across to the old hill and the old scoreboard and seeing it absolutely jam-packed with people, yeah, certainly it's a memory that you won't ever forget.
Tomorrow, that squad will be reunited for the very first time since that maiden game at the night's season opener against the Warriors.
It's going to be a special moment, just to catch up with everybody again. Haven't seen a lot of people for 27 years.
A night's match back in the inaugural season was considered the hottest ticket in town.
You'd turn up and there was a queue to get into the car park and a queue to get into the ground just to watch the lower grades play.
And the side shared a bond like no other and was coached by Alan McMahon, who sadly passed away in 2003.
I think he was a great coach. He was good. You know, he just moulded a bunch of under 25s that were there. Most of them were actually younger than that, teenagers. And I think we did a good job for that first year coming.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
It doesn't bode well when, you know, your staff from Sydney come to Newcastle and probably got the treatment they didn't expect. BBL's the big one. Everyone wants to see a BBL pre-season game or something like that in the city, and we'd love to be able to host one of those. Certainly facilities is one of those issues that we have to address.
Any team now is beatable, in my opinion. We've just got to, put it together, and we can do it.
It's the first event to be held in Maitland's new Levy precinct. While it's still undergoing some finishing touches as part of an $8 million redevelopment, it didn't deter thousands from attending today's Taste Festival.
The levy's almost there, it's about 95% complete, but it's enough to let us do what we wanted to do so we could host the Taste Festival and it's all working well. But a couple of weeks and the levy will be completely finished.
Now in its 6th year, the festival took on a unique flavour, centred around the theme of homegrown.
Definitely the seafood at Peterson House and some sparkling wine, so yeah, very excited.
A selection of the Hunter's best producers took front and centre, offering everything from wine and cheese to chili liqueurs sure to fire up the taste buds.
Wow, okay, that's really chilly-like.
Yeah, it was very nice, yeah. It's leaving the after effect.
But there was also plenty for those keen to sample some international cuisine. Among the most popular, these German sausages.
How's it taste?
Awesome.
Fantastic. Best one since Germany.
The festival continues tomorrow from 10 a.m. Renee Feder, NBN News.
Having something regular to do to start off the weekend makes a lot of people happy.
As the final whistle blew, it was a statistic that a coach under fire didn't want to hear. And it wasn't lost on frustrated fans, a post-match interview interrupted by chants of, "We want Stubbins out."
We tried to change the game. Obviously, there's a few people there with something to say about the game.
A former Socceroo and Newcastle coach also had something to say.
The whole thing's gone pear-shaped. Now, Phil's got to take some responsibilities.
It was an even first half, but it was the visitors which came closest to going one up. After being named skipper earlier in the week, Ben Kennedy was putting in a captain's knock. Andrew Hoole found space inside the box but couldn't find the back of the net. It was a 68th minute strike from the A-League's leading scorer, which was the clincher for the Sky Blues. But despite the result, the coach still believes his side is moving forward.
If people can't see that, we're moving in the right way, then we're all watching a different game. I think this time next year, there'll be a different scenario for the Newcastle Jets.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
A busy crossing linking Newcastle CBD to its beautiful foreshore. Just what the Baird government has been spruiking. But Labor MP Tim Krakenthorpe says the fact there's no pedestrian crossings for the roads either side of it presents a serious safety risk.
They've done it all back to front the whole way. They've put it in, people are going across, and there's risk to life.
Mr Krakenthorpe says he was alerted to the problem by Newcastle Council's Traffic Committee. Minutes from the committee's meeting show that police raised concerns about pedestrian safety. At night, the crossings used by people who could be affected by alcohol, and children are also running across the road. It was suggested that consideration be given to closing the crossing until improvements are made.
I think it's something we need to act on really quickly. If the police have given that advice, they certainly need to be taken heed of.
But Liberal candidate for Newcastle, Karen Howard, says it's clearly signed where pedestrian crossings can be accessed. And if anything, she says it proves just how popular the Baird government's plans are.
I think this is a sad attempt by Tim Krakenthorpe to direct attention away from his dangerous plan for deadly level crossings into the city. So many people are enjoying the new crossings every day.
The Transport Minister, meanwhile, says the government will continue to work with Council in managing the amount of people using the crossing. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
I'm so overwhelmed, and it's just such a wonderful feeling after 3 years, the hard work and all the people that are helping me, to have the statue here.
Nursing a few bumps and bruises, the Knights were more than happy to dive into recovery. Kurt Gidley was ruled out before kick-off with a tight hamstring, but the skipper is keen to prove he'll be ready to face the Cowboys. Against the Warriors, Dane Gagai was the star, while Tyler Randell was one of many unsung heroes. The utility played in the halves, at hooker and in the centres, as well as kicking a difficult conversion.
As soon as I got on there, no one else wanted to kick it and they threw the ball to me, so I'll have a kick, but yeah, it was lucky it went over.
Not bad for just his second game in the NRL.
I just want to, play first grade if it means, playing what position, I don't really care, but as long as I'm there in the mix and just train well during the week and throw my hand up and play every weekend.
Gagai's effort did plenty to help his cause as the Knights prepare to table a contract extension.
Gags has got a lot to weigh up. He's got family in Queensland. He's got some good, strong roots in Newcastle now, and it's obviously a player we're desperate to keep because he's got still plenty of good years of footy left in front of him.
Tyrone Roberts is waiting for the match review panel to decide his fate after being placed on report for this tackle.
International athletes, thousands of visitors and a global television audience in the millions. The Commonwealth Games is one of the biggest sporting events in the world. And Newcastle Council believes it's all within the Hunter's grasp. Discussion is underway about a feasibility study on a bid for the 2030 Games.
All eyes on Newcastle and the Hunter is where we want to be, and I think it's a really important next step for this city.
The talk follows the city's successful role during the Asian Cup.
We have the energy, we certainly have the volunteers to bring events like this together. This is our next step.
The member for Newcastle pledged his support before the Cup was even over.
We've got a bite of it here, a bit of a taste of it. I think we should go for it.
In terms of infrastructure for the Games, it would basically be a case of starting from scratch. But early investigations by Council have identified space around Hunter Stadium as perfect for an athlete's village.
Our occupancy rate during the Asian Cup was 97%, so we need a lot more rooms. But so did the Gold Coast, believe it or not, for their bid.
And just like the region did in January, it's now being asked to show its support again.
We need to have a very hungry local councils, as well as a hungry state government and a hungry resident to make sure that we go for it and get it. It's up to us now. It's up to us.
Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
Deborah Cook has cared for breast cancer patients at the Mater Hospital for years, but today she was the focus, helping to demonstrate equipment which prevents hair loss during chemotherapy.
First question that a majority of them will ask is, will I lose my hair? Because that is such an important part. For many women, it's their identity.
Patients now have access to 2 scalp cooling caps thanks to funds donated by the Newcastle Permanent. A refrigerated coolant is pumped through the silicone caps, which patients wear before, during and after treatment. It lowers the scalp temperature to about 15 degrees.
It constricts the little blood vessels, so there's less blood supply going to that area. Less blood supply means less chemotherapy drug going to that particular area.
Scalp cooling technology has been around for the last 40 years, but the Hunter's public patients haven't been able to access it until now.
It's hoped this will bridge the gap between private and public hospitals, but doctors warn the caps aren't suitable for everyone.
So it's not cancer specific, it's drug specific and the delivery specifics.
Lauren Kelly, NBN News. First, there was the warm-up. Then a brief lesson before the big move was in full swing, taking a group of agile over 55s back a few decades. While the dance was a lot of fun, the message behind it was serious.
1 in 10 people over 65 are affected by dementia, and then it raises to 3 in 10 when you get to over 85.
It coincided with other big moves held across the state, all raising awareness and funds for dementia services and encouraging people to keep active later in life.
Research has showed that it can be significantly reduced, the impacts of the disease, because there is no cure, by keeping people moving, keeping the body healthy, keeping the brain active.
Advice 92-year-old Margaret Valens has taken to heart.
just try and keep active, and even at home, put hot records on and giggle and jiggle.
Lauren Kelly, NBN News.
They were kept scoreless against Sydney, but the Jets had no problem hitting the target this morning. Coaching staff admit there's no point being solid in defence if the team lacks in attack.
We've put ourselves in position to be hard to beat and then created enough chances to win games. We have to be more ruthless, we have to score goals, and in the end, the players have to show that they're good enough to do that.
Ironically, discarded striker and fan favourite Joel Griffiths opened his account for Wellington over the weekend. This Saturday, the Jets will take on other familiar faces, with Melbourne City now boasting the likes of Connor Chapman and Q Yelins.
They've got a midweek game against West Sydney Wanderers. We just had a chat to the boys this morning and we have to get 3 points this weekend.
Taylor Regan sat out today's session after suffering a cork against Sydney, but he'll be given every chance to prove his fitness. Regan captained the side a few weeks ago, but against the Sky Blues it was Ben Kennedy who wore the armband. Despite enjoying the honour, he isn't fazed about retaining the job full-time.
To be honest, either way, I don't think my role changes too much within the side. Being goalkeeper, I always talk during games and I don't think that changes. So obviously it'd be something nice, but it's not really anything at the moment I'm really focusing on.
Look, I think it's been a little bit, who's going to do it, the Cowboys or the Fire, and that's been the last couple of years, I think, because we've been in the grand final, and it's just a phenomenal job that we finally got over the line and brought the first one home to Townsville.
Almost 2 months of work down, 4 to go. With the help of Resources for Regions funding, Singleton Council is spending $11 million to make John Street look like this.
We also need to be part of the tourism industry, and that means having an attractive, vibrant, contemporary town centre that makes people really want to come in and enjoy the place and spend their money here.
Council says it's also about making the street safer. 6 car parking spaces will go, making way for more disabled parking and 2 additional pedestrian crossings.
We recognise that we've had several, in fact 10 serious accidents that have involved pedestrians in recent years, and so that's something we're really keen to address.
But with progress comes some pain. Gail Thompson from the Chicken Spot says local businesses are trading down by 30 to 80%.
It's been a major issue for all of us. They do say we're going to reap the rewards at the end, but in the meanwhile we're going to lose millions of dollars in business in town. And we're not happy.
Other traders agree and can also see the positives.
It's just not as easy for people to stop. We're still trading, we're still looking towards the future, and at the end of the day it should look good.
In good news for business owners and the community, the work will be complete by the end of July. That's 6 weeks ahead of schedule. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
The final piece of the puzzle slotted into place. While Newcastle slept, the remaining 4 segments of the $4.5 million Anzac Memorial Walk Bridge were lifted onto their support columns. But it wasn't until the light of day that the city's newest landmark really came to life.
As soon as we put the first Y columns up and everyone realised that, something different's happening here, it's just been fantastic.
Where once only eagles dared to go stands a man-made marvel. 64 tonnes of steel spanning 160 metres. By far the most striking feature, the uninterrupted view. With stunning 360-degree views out to the ocean, across Newcastle, and even on a good day, as far as the Hunter Valley. It's taken years to get the project this far, and it hasn't been without its challenges.
There's actually a World War II tunnel, one part that we had to miss with the pillars. They go 9.5 metres into the ground.
Eventually, the cliff top walk will tie in with the Bathers Way, completing a link between Nobby's Beach and Merriweather.
We have a few more crane lifts happening this week to install the last of some balustrading and some precast concrete seating behind us here. Then it's really just a matter of applying all the finishing touches.
The Memorial Walk is due to open in time for Anzac Day. Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
It's become quite an icon, and we've had a lot of interest. He's the most well-known identity in Hexham, that's for sure.
The Knights might be 1 from 1. But Rick Stone says they need to improve on their first up effort against the Warriors.
Oh, look, I think you've got to learn a little bit out of every game, and our kicking game was a little bit untidy, and probably our completion, our execution down in good ball wasn't as good as it needs to be.
The side travels to North Queensland on Friday ahead of its match with the Cowboys, and it's a wait-and-see approach in terms of captain Kurt Gidley.
He's got to be pretty good on Friday, if he's going to travel. Obviously, the travel takes a little bit out of it, and then he's got to get moving again when he gets up there. So that's something that we've got to consider. But, he won't play unless he's 100%.
Sione Matautia is available to assume his place in the squad after taking the early guilty plea for a Grade 1 dangerous throw.
It was going to be pretty hard to argue that he didn't put him in a dangerous position in some stage in that tackle. So decided to take the early plea, and it's not ideal. He's got a few carryover points there now, and but it's something that sort of keeps Sione sort of in the mix for this weekend.
The priority on Saturday night, keeping Cowboys playmaker Jonathan Thurston quiet.
Good players like that, you certainly have to reduce their special moments and sort of take them out of the play, making them have shots from out of their own end, and rather than on your line, put a bit more pressure on them with a kicking game.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
They get their sets going well. They've got smart halves with good kicking games, so they'll test, and they've also got some good physical forwards, both Scott. It'll be a pretty good game.
The intensity is one thing, it's the speed of the ball, the way it moves up and down the ground, and you switch off for a second, your players got the ball, and they just hit the score on you. So it's about 100% commitment 100% of the time.
There was a rockstar reception for Luke Foley in Singleton. The state opposition leader in town to spruik what country New South Wales will receive under a Labor government. The biggest cash splash for the Upper Hunter, $50 million to complete stages 2 and 3 of the Muswellbrook Hospital upgrade.
And I'm also proud to confirm that a Foley Labor government will build the new Lower Hunter Public Hospital in Maitland and keep it in public hands.
But Nationals candidate Michael Johnson says stage 2 of the hospital is already fully funded and that only $15 million is needed to complete stage 3, half of the amount pledged by Labor.
I won't apologise for investing in the upgrade that the Muswellbrook Hospital needs.
Among the other election sweeteners, $23.1 million for road upgrades across the region, $25 million for a new primary school at Rutherford and $40 million to start planning a new high school in Maitland. But Mr Foley stumbled when it came to whether a Labor government would approve the Mount Thorley Warkworth mine expansion.
My understanding is that approval has been given. It may be a matter that's concluded before the March 28 election.
The project was only recommended for approval by the Planning Assessment Commission last week. Emma Murphy, NBN News.
We believe we can reinstate all 1,100 TAFE employees across the state and the 50 that have been lost from the Hunter immediately.
It's a trip Wendy Cuneo and her 35-year-old son David know well. 5 days a week he's picked up from the Stockton Centre and driven to his daycare program at Mayfield. A mother of 3 children, all with varying disabilities, Wendy knows how important tailored care is.
Well, I have a daughter in a group home and I have David in the Stockton Centre. She wouldn't suit Stockton and he wouldn't suit the group home.
She fears David will essentially have to be locked up in a group residence once the Stockton Centre is closed.
It's not fair to pull down Stockton when there are so many people not being cared for.
Supporters are instead fighting to have the centre transformed into a disability care hub with respite care, teaching facilities and an assessment centre. They say not only would it save a public asset, but boost disability services across the region. A spokesperson for Disability Services Minister John Ajaka says the intention to close all large residential centres, including the one at Stockton, was first announced by Labor in 1998 and that the coalition is committed to delivering on that. Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
Mark Jenkins has got to have one of the more unique jobs in Newcastle. One hammer stroke at a time, the coach builder spends his day bringing historic trucks back to life. He says rebuilding the rigs from little more than scrap is a labour of love.
What I love about them is it's the nostalgia. It just takes you back to when you were a child and you could see them and they're on the road everywhere, and they all had their own personalities, and it's great to put them back together again and have them work again.
His workshop, tucked away in Cardiff, is home to a chunk of the Hunter's history.
These trucks actually helped build the Hunter. The B model Max here actually worked at building the coal loader when that was being done.
And back in the 1950s, trucks like these were used to haul entire homes from flood-prone areas of Maitland to Talara, where many still stand today. One of Mark's hopes is to hear from those who now own the properties or who feature in these photos. It takes up to 18 months and $100,000 to get the trucks looking and working like this.
Probably it makes them more special than their modern counterparts, the fact that they're uncomfortable and hard to drive.
The rigs will be on show at this weekend's Truck Muster at Maitland Showground. Madeline McKell, NBN News.
As Newcastle looked for maximum points in Game 1, 3 Knights had added goals of their own. Up against a big Warriors pack, Robbie Rocco didn't take a backward step, determined to repay the faith his coach showed in selecting him.
We've got a lot of competition in the forwards, and at the end of the day, you've got to perform to stay in this forward pack. That was my main goal, to start well. I've been fully fit, and so I've got no excuses not to start well.
Adam Clydesdale, meanwhile, relished his opportunity at starting hooker and credits his dummy half form to the man he replaced, Danny Baderis, who's now his mentor.
He's there all the time. Me and Beds work pretty close together, and he works close to other hookers too. But yeah, he's helped me out big time in the game this year.
But Tyler Randell proved his versatility off the bench, and the competition is on for the number 9 shirt.
Tyler's a real good player, so keeps me honest and keeps me working harder to keep trying to spend a spot, I suppose. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the challenge.
And after starting pre-season training at the wrong end of the scales, Joey Leilua was ready to cut loose and prove his doubters wrong.
When you go off season, you like to have fun and enjoy yourself, and you probably brought a couple of kgs on, which I obviously did, but then I came back and trained hard, and obviously I played round 1 and showed why I belong in the team.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
Winning the team's challenge meant the world to Merewether as it celebrated its 50th anniversary.
It was a great year for the board club. We did really well in a lot of competitions, but to win the Curie teams after 30 years of the club trying and to get it again 30 years later was great.
The club doesn't want to wait another 3 decades to win again. On Thursday, it'll take the trophy back to the Gold Coast while believing it has the talent to retain it on Sunday.
We've always got the depth there to fill the team, but we've got pretty much just about all of our top guys this year, which is going to be one of our best squads in a long while. So I think we're going to be the hunted for sure.
Following his disappointing exit at Surfest, Jesse Adam has a point to prove.
So I've never really surfed a 4-man priority heat before, and that was clearly shown on the day. It was a shame for me because it's probably the best I've done in the last sort of 2 or 3 years. I surfed a lot of heats on the opening day and the trials to get through it.
Having lost veterans Luke Egan and Matt Hoy, Merewether is sending a younger lineup, which includes the likes of Ryan Callanan, Jake Sylvester and Travis Lynch. Luke Hamilton is one of 2 juniors.
This year I got pretty high expectations. I got second in my heat last year, and I want to win a heat this year.
Jackson Baker's last competition appearance featured former world champion Joel Parkinson. Competing at Kira will provide another confidence boost as he continues his pro junior career.
There's a lot of good surfers up there, and there's a lot of people who respect that event, and it's like surfing in like a normal pro junior or something. There's a lot of good people up there, so to win a heat up there would be a big confidence booster going into New Zealand and Tahiti.